James Gunn didn't fire Henry Cavill, David Zaslav did. There seems to be this opinion online that James Gunn made a decision to remove Henry Cavill as Superman. It was never his decision. Now, if James Gunn had come out and said, look, guys and girls, you know, I'm creating this new universe. I want to go with a new actor because Henry was part of the old DCEU. Totally get that. Totally respect that. If there was no other reasoning, you know, political reasonings, you know, a clash of personalities and things like that, I'm fine with it. That's not the case. Gunn took all the bullets, the knives and the flames, but it was never his decision. I'm not saying he was desperate to work with Henry Cavill as Superman, but I'm sure he wasn't opposed to working with Cavill as Superman either. He would have done whatever the studio told him he could do. So why did David Zaslav fire Henry Cavill as Superman? Because Black Adam flopped. This is how know-nothing, deluded and reactive David Zaslav is. He has no scripted entertainment experience and he's the CEO of an entertainment fucking company. How fucking crazy is that? That's insane, people. That's insane that this guy who knows nothing about making movies and TV is actually in charge. Now, it's fine for you to be a CEO and not have knowledge of entertainment in terms of making it, as long as you don't get involved with the creative decisions. But Zaslav is getting involved with creative decisions. It was his decision to shave off 20 minutes of James Gunn's Superman movie. This is a bad decision, the wrong decision, and before him, they shaved half an hour of Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Also, a bad creative decision. So David Zaslav fired Henry Cavill as Superman because Black Adam flopped. He decided, because everyone didn't go in their droves to watch a post-credit scene of Cavill as Superman for a few seconds, that Henry Cavill was an irrelevant, popular Superman. Oh, how fucking wrong you are, Mr. fucking Zaslav. How wrong you are. You were wrong. Because people may have not rushed to the cinema to see a few seconds of Cavill. By the way, if he was the co-lead of this Black Adam movie, if he shared the screen with Black Adam, this movie would have made over $1 billion freaking dollars. Man of Steel, 650 million, 670 million. BVS, 870 million. Now, not what the studio wanted, but enough to say that Cavill can put butts in seats with his Superman. Now, Cavill's movies haven't really dragged, you know, look, at the end of the day, Cavill doesn't make hit after hit after hit. I get that, right? This is not, he's as close to a modern movie star as we've got. He's got personality, he's got the looks, but here's the reality that the situation is. Henry Cavill is popular as Superman. In two films where people were divided over the creative direction of Superman, they still love Henry Cavill. A woman can't look at Henry Cavill in that Superman costume without having to change her underwear. Let's not get it twisted. This is fucking true. This is not me being disrespectful to women. It's true. And gay blokes have to change their boxer shorts when they see Cavill in that uniform. Gay men and women, straight women, love Henry Cavill. But you fired him. So just because Black Adam flopped, it doesn't mean Henry was an unpopular Superman. You absolute reactive idiot. Because if you actually checked the views on social media for that post-credit scene on Black Adam, they were record-breaking, they went through the roof. But instead, you judged something on a movie flopping. A few seconds of post-credit. You know, that post-credit scene is amazing. So you made a mistake. You should have got Gunn to go with Cavill. But Gunn shouldn't have been there in the first place. Gunn should never have been involved with Superman, right? You should have allowed Snyder to finish his Superman DCEU arc. You should have allowed Snyder to cook. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about the moans and groans on social media. Snyder's movies made bank. We already know that. They made bank. Not as much bank as the studio wanted, but they made bank. Since Snyder's gone, we've had a $1 billion Aquaman movie that actually he consulted on with James Wan, because Wan was ringing him up all the time, by the way. So Snyder was very much involved in the consultation of the development of that movie. But it was James Wan's movie. And we have a Joker movie that's nothing to do with the DCEU that made $1 billion as well. And then we have the Batman that has nothing to do with the DCEU, which also made $750 million. No matter what people tell you, that's good bank as well. But that should have been Ben Affleck's The Batman movie, which would have been leaps and bounds fucking better than Matt Reeves' The Batman. Although I love Matt Reeves' The Batman, Ben Affleck's The Batman would have gone deeper, darker, it would have been more violent, it would have been freaking amazing. I'm talking about even more peak than the original season 1 Daredevil on Netflix. That's what I'm talking about. A proper R-rated Batman movie. That it would have been amazing. But you went away from that. And since you got rid of Snyder, you've made flop after flop after DC flop. And there's no escaping that decision. But if this Superman movie flops, and according to rumours and according to hearsay, apparently you at WB think that Superman is going to flop at the domestic and global box office. The one thing when the autopsy is being done in your boardroom, when they give you a vote of no confidence, Mr. Saslav, and when we, the pundits and the fans, start shifting the carcass of James Gunn's Superman, we're going to say one thing. Your biggest mistake was getting rid of Henry Cavill, the most popular Superman since Christopher Reeve. Let me repeat that. The most popular version of Superman since Christopher Reeve, and you fired him. Let alone how badly the previous regime treated Henry for having passion and an opinion on what Superman should be. There's no question about it. Henry didn't agree with every Zack Snyder, Christopher Nolan and David Goyer decision. He certainly didn't agree with a lot in Batman vs. Superman. I don't think Ben Affleck agreed with everything in Batman vs. Superman either. They could kind of see a worrying situation because Batman vs. Superman is a great movie. I love it, as is Man of Steel. But you need that family audience. You need a general audience to come in. And they were put off, and a lot of hardcore DC fans were also put off. As much as I love those films, we can't pretend that's not true. So I don't think Henry agreed with a lot that was going on, but he does really love Man of Steel. He does. Henry loves Man of Steel, and he wanted to make a direct sequel. Not one that he shares the screen with Batman, but a proper direct sequel to Man of Steel. That can still happen, by the way. Henry's only 41, 42, 43. The man looks amazing. He looks 10 years fucking younger. So he can still do this. And I believe if this film flops, they will try and reach out to Henry Cavill. Or they'll rest Superman. It'll be a big shame. They'll blame Superman. They always blame the character. They'll say he's not relatable. I fucking promise you, right? If Superman flops, you're going to have Gunn, Saffron and Zaslav going, oh, well, Superman's just not relatable. We're going to have to rest him. They're going to blame Superman. What are they going to say when Supergirl, his cousin, flops? Her movie flops. She's not relatable. What are they going to say when Green Lantern flops? That's not relatable. What are they going to say if Superman flops, right? Peacemaker 2 probably flops. Because you know why? Because Peacemaker 2 has got a bunch of Superman and DCU cameos. He's totally linked it in. He's not making it into a standalone series like basically Peacemaker was. I know like Peacemaker 1 had those Justice League cameos and mentioned a few names, but it was a standalone story. Peacemaker 2 is very reliant on Superman being successful. And at the end of the day, nobody knows if that's going to be the case. And if it's not, the number one thing people are going to say, you should have gone with Cavill. A very popular actor, women love him, men love him. There's nobody who doesn't like Henry Cavill as Superman, well, apart from Grace Randolph and a few other stupid fans on the internet. You don't listen to those people. You go, here you are, suck up your Marmite, right? You're all like Marmite. Sometimes I like what you say, sometimes I don't. It's bullshit to say that Henry Cavill isn't a good Superman, because he is. I think it was absolutely right to make Man of Steel this contemporary movie that didn't rely on nostalgia, although it had a lot of Smallville nostalgia, but that's because at that time, Smallville was the version of Superman that everyone grew up with and everybody loved, including me. Of course I loved the Christopher Reeve era, but, you know, Tom Welling took over the mantle beautifully, and it really did work. So it was right. And, you know, Zach sat there with his kids watching Smallville as well. So he had a respect for the show, as did Bryan Singer, by the way. He said at the time that Smallville had carried, you know, the mantle of Superman through kind of the darker years where there wasn't any Superman movies. So if this movie fails, that's what people are going to be saying. You know, you sacked Henry Cavill for something that wasn't his fault. You sacked him because Black Adam flopped. A post-credit scene will not save your movie. A post-credit scene has never saved a movie ever. Ever. Marvel movies, Marvel's Phase 4 and Phase 5 had post-credit scenes. Not one of those movies was salvaged. You can't salvage anything. Masters of the Universe had a little post-credit scene. The Green Lantern movie had an excellent Sinestro post-credit scene. Excellent! Probably one of my favourite, if not favourite, post-credit scenes of all time. Post-credit scenes can't save your movie, Hollywood. You have to make a good movie at the end of the day. Now, I enjoyed Black Adam for what it was. It was a popcorn chomping, you know, extravaganza. Great VFX, the music was amazing, and I kind of liked the film. I enjoyed it. But most people, I mean, I remember watching the film once and then seeing the post-credit scene repeatedly on my phone. I was so excited by it. I thought it was great. But no one was going to go to the cinema to see Henry Cavill as Superman for a few seconds. But if you shared the screen with Black Adam in that movie, yeah, you would have made loads of money. If Black Adam shared the screen with Shazam, you would have made a little bit more money. But you didn't do that because you listened to The Rock. The Rock didn't want to share the screen with anyone. Despite his protestations that he wanted to integrate Superman into his Black Adam universe, he's a bit of an egomaniac, The Rock, and that's the problem with going to bed with a devil like that. I have a lot of time for him, a lot of respect for him. What he's done with his career is amazing. I don't dislike the man, but he is an egomaniac, and never do business with egomaniacs. It doesn't end well. So to blame Henry Cavill for the failure of Black Adam is insane. You should have blamed the person whose fault it was, which is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. As I say, I like Black Adam. I think it's a decent movie. I go back and watch it all the time. They've got a peak Hawkman. They've got a peak Dr. Fate. It's a good movie at the end of the day. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a lot of fun. But the reality is, since Snyder's left, and Cavill's left, and the rest of them have left, people are not interested in DC anymore. And that's the truth. And there's lots of hateful opinions of Snyder online. But something you need to know about the internet. The internet isn't a good representation on what happens in the movie theatre. We've seen so many people hype and shield the DCEU, the DCU. All those DCEU movies that were made after Snyder left, they were hyping them, they were simping them, they were shilling them. Not one of those bastards, those assholes, who were shilling, making annoying posts all day, went to support the movie. You know what they did? They watched those flop movies on HBO Max and said, you see, they're fine, there's nothing wrong with them. Oh, look at all the views on HBO Max. Doesn't matter about streaming. Doesn't matter what views a flop gets on Disney Plus or HBO Max. Now, when you first put a movie on Disney Plus behind a paywall, it'll make you some green. But that's not the idea. The idea is that you make $1 billion with your Marvel movie or your Snow White movie, and then when it's behind the paywall on Disney Plus, then it makes even more money. So people saying, well, it doesn't matter if the movie flops because it's behind the paywall at first on Disney Plus. No, that's not the plan. The plan is for it to be successful in cinemas and then to be successful behind the paywall. That's how the force fucking works. So you can't simp that one, Shills, either. But the reality is, getting rid of Henry Cavill as Superman is a mistake that they are going to regret tenfold. No sensible person would have fired Henry Cavill as Superman.